An example of what I mean by everyone saying the same thing, they're just using different words, is when you read Ecclesiastes or you listen to track 17 on the Amazing Jekyll Brothers. It's like kind of saying the same thing, you know? Nothing's new, nowhere to explore. Everything left's been done before. It's like all is vanity, vanity and vexation of spirit. Sun goes up, sun goes down. It's all the exact same dang thing. What does it freaking matter? That's what. And then Violent J, you know, on the day when the wagons come, I just pray that you let me on. And what is he saying there? Like, sometimes I think he's saying, I pray that they let me on. You know, I want to travel with the Dark Carnival. I want to go to heaven. I want to be involved in the kingdom of God, the God group. I want to be going there and doing that thing, rather than the hell's pit way, and then, or the limbo way, stuck in your body forever, just there, conscious but rotting. Okay, and then Ecclesiastes is like, just live in peace on the land. You know, that's all you could do. And then does Ecclesiastes go on to say, you know, something about God and the afterlife? I think he does. I don't know, Ecclesiastes is written by right? Solomon, I think. And doesn't he go on to say something about the judgment? Like how the acts were judged. Is that a judgment happening as we go now? A karmic judgment, you know, the laws of like the universe, maybe like your action causes an equal and opposite reaction kind of thing. Are we being judged constantly, continually, just immediately, and our actions are just coming around, and so we're either going down the hell path or we're going to the heaven path? Or are our actions judged all at once at the last day? And is that the judgment? That's when you're like sorted into your houses, right? Telestial, terrestrial, celestial. And then celestial plus, double plus. I don't know. That was an idea. Just that there's a lot of the same undertones in track 17 of Amazing Jekyll Brothers as Ecclesiastes, and I think that's kind of what I mean when I say that it's kind of saying the same thing. We all kind of have the same feel of what's going on here in society. These little rules that we live by and feelings of how things are going. And could there be an entirely different set of rules that you have no idea even exists? And I think that's the Don Juan stuff. There's other stuff too, but for me, it was the Don Juan stuff that was like, it's all just made up. All of it, the constructs, the things we live by, they're all part of this mega cult we call society. It's just kind of the things we were taught. Taught to have empathy, taught to be this, taught to be that. Taught to believe that you can't own slaves. That would be a horrific act. We're taught that. Just like people were taught that they could have slaves back then. That was not a horrific act. That was normal every day. They weren't going around as villains, like an eye patch and a crook. They were just like, that was just doing life just the way we do life. And there's probably some horrific acts that we're doing right now that the future people with our future society will be like, that's a horrific act they did in their society. So that's... I don't know. I think that would be the war stuff, or like the Matthew 24 stuff, the horrific acts. And then there's Ecclesiastes over there going, just live in peace on the land. That's like the whole thing. And I think that is going to be, if you think about the ultimate future utopian society, like what would their culture look like? And I think just living in peace is the ideal culture. And it's so interesting that we stumbled upon a civilization that had been living in peace for quite a few centuries, and we kind of like, or did they, do we come back it up to the Japanese and the Chinese, when we came there, did they have a culture of peace? It's hard to say. I know everyone wants to pretend like they have a really good history or whatever, but like, we just need to know the truth. We need to see who has cultures of peace, how we can implement it. Let's just do the culture of peace thing. Like, no matter what you do, no matter what you believe, no matter what kind of hat you think we should all wear, like, let's just like do the culture of peace. Like, that should be the main goal, I think. When you think about society goals, and when you think about biblical goals, I think a culture of peace is the biblical goal. Like, if you think of the 10 Commandments, if you think about the 2 Great Commandments, if you think about anything Jesus said, it's like a culture of peace, a culture of peace. That's why you can judge usury against a culture of peace. Would there be usury in a culture of peace? Absolutely not. Like, we're not going to try to get gain off of doing nothing. We're going to work by the labor of our own hands, right, King Benjamin? So, like, we're not going to be doing that stuff. I think King Benjamin is like the only righteous king in like the whole situation. So like, let's just look to that example. Let's do the labor by our own hands. You can just know this, even though usury sounds really good and is the way you've constructed your life, and like that's the only way you know how to do things. You could start tightening your life up a little bit though. You could try to do some other stuff. What do other people do? What do you do when you don't have usury? You can start looking into it. Because the culture of usury is not a culture of peace. If you look around people doing usury, it's not peaceful. Everyone's very stressed. And when you serve mammon, if we're like just caring about getting more things and getting above everybody else, above our neighbor, like with the wallpaper in England, like in the Victorian age, like the green, the arsenic, it's like to look fancy, just to be fancier, and it was just like made everybody's lives worse. I heard that they went to the beach to get some fresh air. Clean air was like going to help your body and spirit rejuvenate, because it's true, we do need clean air, like that's a need, but they were like doing it to themselves to be fancy, with the fancy green paint. Was it paint or wallpaper? I think it was wallpaper, but it could have been paint. I think it was wallpaper though. Anyway, it was poisonous and poisoning them in their homes. Just try not to do the poisons. That would be a peaceful act upon the land. Like if we just choose peace, that's a good metric. Do unto others what you would have done unto you. Peace is what you want done unto you, obviously. Just do peace. Oh, the Prince of Peace. It's like, let's just do that choice. Do you feel peace when you're protesting like that? I don't know. Whatever you're protesting, do you feel peace or do you feel enraged? If you feel enraged, you're not contributing to the peace situation of the planet, that's for sure, even if you have a righteous cause. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Are we ever entitled to righteous indignation? Is that a thing we should have? I feel righteous indignation a bit. Is that a correction? Should I not be feeling righteous and just let the Lord feel righteous indignation? That's a lot easier way. I mean, it's easier for me. Then I can just be peaceful. It's better. I don't know. I think having a righteous indignation, just being like offended, I'm like ultimately offended by hypocritical acts, right? Like just hypocrisy is like loathsome unto my soul. But I still love the hypocrite. So you hate the hypocrisy, but you love the hypocrite. And you love the person and you hope that they repent, right? So maybe that is a peaceful action. Like I don't have the anger in my heart that will lead to murder. I don't have the anger in my heart that leads to a non-peaceful society. I have peace and love in my heart that leads to a peaceful society. If everyone attains that goal, it's like, just work on your heart. Get the beam out of your own eye before you work on the speck of gayness in your brothers, or the speck of Babylon, or the speck of mammon. You've got to get your heart right first. But once you do have your heart right, then you say it. It's like, I'm allowed to say this stuff. I feel like I have my heart right. I feel like I've got my heart right in this specific situation. I'm not perfect. I'm not God. I'm not Jesus. But I'm cultivating my heart. And it makes sense to do. And it makes sense within the context of the biblical culture. And it makes sense to do in the context of the juggalo culture. And it makes sense to do in the context of literally every culture. Just live in peace in the land. In peace. And will Satan be bound for 2,000 years if there's peace that way? If the hearts of the people bind Satan, like they're bound because everybody's choosing peace, not because it's for show, but because we genuinely have had enough of this nonsense. We genuinely just want to live in peace on the land. Once you just get fed up enough with it, it's like, okay, then make sure your action today chooses peace, even at the cost of your own life. That's what it costs. And that's the scary part, because the Matthew 24 stuff is coming down the pike. But I think the Luke 21 stuff gives us kind of a lot of hope that if you do choose this, not one hair on your head will be mangled. You choose the peace way. It's going to take a huge leap of faith, because many hairs on many heads have been mangled over the years. So, it's a scary day. But the Luke 21 stuff gives us some hope. If we do believe in the Bible, and I do believe, like, there's something to the Bible, it makes sense, obviously. Like, it makes sense to me in this way that's, like, more complex than, say, Clan of the Cave Bear. Doesn't make sense to my life in this way. But the Bible does make sense in real life, in real time, all the time. Like, almost like a living God kind of thing. And it's in the Bible, and it makes sense. Just because the Bible makes sense doesn't mean it makes sense in the way that you thought it made sense to you as a child when you grew up in it, learning the Bible from your flawed parents' perspective on what they thought the Bible was about, based on what their leaders were telling them, based on a whole bunch of faith-promoting lies said by people thinking butts in the seats matters more than a change of heart. So, because the change of heart will come once you're in the seats, and it very well could be that caused a chain reaction of a whole bunch of problems in your own house, didn't it? Where the butts were already there in the seats, but the change of heart. Not saying everybody was like that. But a lot of people were, and so it's just, I don't know. The unfortunate thing is the Bible still makes sense, but a lot of people reject it based on just their childhood trauma alone, which it's a perfectly valid thing to do and to think. So it's just a really sad situation, because they're turned away from something that truly is good, like peace, but they could find it another way. God works a miracle. Just peace. But what about the Jesus Christ situation? Don't we have to call on his name or understand his situation? Maybe that will be made more clear as we go. That's maybe a line upon line thing. Maybe we don't need to know it all today. But if we have even the base, small understanding about peace, a little bit of faith, just faith the size of the grain of a mustard seed, if we just have just a little bit, just have trust and hope and faith that peace is a thing, And peace is what we want. Peace is the ultimate goal of, I mean, obviously a peaceful society. It isn't a peaceful society what people want. Anyway, it makes sense. And the Bible still makes sense. It doesn't have to be so culty.